Hi everyone, my name is Vanessa van Dijk, and in today's video I want to respond to a comment I received on my latest video about the anti-aging illusion. So someone asked, what about the studies that show fewer wrinkles and less sun damage with retinoids or vitamin C? And this is a great question because it highlights something many of us tend to assume, including myself, for a very long time. So today I want to explain what those studies actually show, what they don't show, and why this matters when we talk about anti-aging skincare. This isn't about proving anyone wrong, this is about clarity, because the skincare world, as you may have noticed, can be incredibly confusing. Now the first thing we need to look at is what these studies are actually measuring. So when people say studies show improvements, what those studies usually show are very small, instrument-measured changes where people are actively using the product. These are things like a slightly thicker outer layer of the skin, or tiny measured changes in wrinkle depth that you only see with machines or very specific lighting. They are not showing visible wrinkle reduction that you or I would notice in real life. And these studies are also short-term. Many of them last 8 to 12 weeks, sometimes 6 months, occasionally a year. But they don't follow people for years after they stopped using the products. They don't include a washout period to see whether those tiny changes stay. And they don't compare the results to someone who simply avoids UV, uses sunscreen consistently, and lives a balanced, normal life. So we have no idea whether these products actually outperform basic sun protection and lifestyle habits. And this is why the findings from these studies don't tell us very much about long-term real-world skin. Now, something else that came up in my comments is that some people naturally assume anti-aging and sun damage are the same thing, or that they fall under the same category. And yes, there's a lot of overlap, but I personally separate them because sun damage usually refers to things like pigmentation, texture changes, and redness. Anti-aging is more about wrinkles and fine lines. And just to be clear, I'm very aware that the sun is the #1 cause of wrinkles. I simply separate the categories so my explanations stay clear and specific. So when people hear studies show improvement, it sounds like real-world visible changes happening over time. But when you actually look at these studies, that's not what they show. They show temporary changes that only happen during ongoing use. And those changes are almost always measured in ways that aren't visible to the naked eye. And this brings me back to the main point from my last video. With anti-aging, you will never get to see the version of yourself who lived the exact same life without these products. You can't isolate the product from your lifestyle, and even though you can try to manage things like sun exposure, stress, diet, sleep, and your environment, you can't control them perfectly or consistently enough to make a meaningful comparison. And aging happens so slowly that you can simply not repeat tests the way you can with acne, irritation, or breakouts. So based on all the evidence I could find and that is publicly available, there are no long-term studies showing real visible wrinkle reversal in everyday life. Only small temporary changes measured with instrument under controlled conditions. And that's a very different story than people imagine when they hear retinoids reduce wrinkles. So my recommendation stays the same. Focus on what you can control in your lifestyle. So use your sunscreen when you're outside for longer periods. Avoid unnecessary sun exposure. Take care of your sleep, your diet, your overall general well-being. And then if you enjoy retinoids or vitamin C or anything else, you can absolutely still use them. But don't expect them to reverse aging in a visible way over long term. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Happy skincaring!